Beginning of every year, kindergarten through 8th grade, high school, we started off the school year with a Mass, and this was always the gospel. You know, and there's this finger up there saying, use your talents. Don't lose your talents. And you were very sure that they were talking about whatever. You had no idea what your talent was, but you weren't supposed to waste it. You know, and I think that's probably a very wonderful understanding of this parable. You know, it is about the gifts that we receive. But it's also interesting that economists have taken this passage from Scripture and have used it to justify capitalism. Not only justify, but to ordain it as something holy. You know, now we can justify our economic system with just this little passage from Scripture. Well, I'm afraid there's even more to this. I think this is really more about the essential gift that God gives to us. The very essential gift of God's self to us. It's interesting in this story, what little we know about the master is he's going on a trip. And 2 out of 3 people really seem to like him, you know. They don't fear him. They do everything he asks of them. And when he comes back and rewards them with more talents or more money, see, the talent, best I can read it, was about $1 million in today's money, okay? Talent means weight. So a talent is a certain amount of weight, and you get that weight in coins, silver or gold, that would be a talent and be worth today about $1 million. That man's handing out, $8 million. That's pretty, he's trusting these guys. He seems to have been with them long enough to trust them. And they seem to have responded, and they know what the master wants. They know how the master has been. They've watched him. At least that's my take on it. And so he gives them this. And he says, take care of this. And he goes on his trip. Whereas, if you want to make it what I really think it's about, and you think it's about too, is the master is Jesus. And he's leaving us. He's going to die. What's interesting is this story is told at the very end of Matthew's gospel. You've already got the story of the judgment, okay? Then right after the story of the judgment, the good goats, or the goats and the sheep, then we tell this final story. The placement in Matthew's gospel is important. He wants us to know that there's something going on in us that we need to treasure and we need to expand on. It probably arose from that whole notion of what Paul said in the second reading. You people are the light. You've been given light and grace and joy and peace. Now make it blossom. Share it with everyone. Well, I think that's what he's talking about. These first two guys really saw that. They saw a master who trusted them and whom they trusted. They'd watched him as he had operated, and they liked what he did. And they did it the same way he did. And they began to expand on what he had done. If you're talking about the essential relationship of a human being to God, that's it. They are making more clear to many others their relationship with God. They are graced. God is in them. God is with them. God is for them. This is what this talent is that they're expanding. They're giving away. But this one guy, the schlub, whatever, why he's this way, I don't know. But he's not that way he's that way by training, I think. The Pharisees get a lot of blame in the Gospels, but they were raised as Pharisees. They were taught to be Pharisees. Are they responsible for the way that they have been raised and taught and come to believe? Well, this third person, all of a sudden he is fearful of this master. He doesn't trust the master. The master is unjust. The master is a hard and difficult person. And out of fear, he forgets all that he's seen. And he takes his gift of relationship with God and hides it. And that, I think, is the whole point of this story. How do we picture our God? if we surrender to God as our Creator who loves us, who remakes us every day, who gives us life every moment, who forgives anything we do, who never runs out of patience with us, if this is our God, then you've got to be living in the light. The light has to be so bright that you want to shine it on somebody else. This is a gift you want to give away. This is a marvelous gift. And you want to make it grow 5 times, 10 times. And Jesus says, and the Master says, this is a little matter, this 5 million I gave you. I'm going to give you much more. I'm going to fill you with my love so you can fill the world with love. Live in the light. But some of us, I don't know what it is. We talked about this a little bit on Wednesday night at Mass. Some of us, because of the world we live in, we get bombarded by a God who is very, very difficult. He seems to be unjust. He's a punisher. If you get it wrong, be careful. You don't know what he's going to do. And if you want to be tossed out into the darkness, that's where you go. You create a God in your own mind that is harsh and unforgiving. And that becomes part of who you are. We make ourselves in God's image. And if he's a terrible, terrible, oppressive God, then we become terrible, oppressive people. If he's a God of vengeance, then we become a people of vengeance. If he's a God who will not listen, we are a person who will not listen. It's not God condemning us, but it's us condemning ourselves. And we always have a chance to change. We always have a chance to move on. We always can go forward. And if we just mix with people of the light, look at you all here. You're mixing with people of the light. And there's hundreds of more over there. I'm not saying we're the only light. There's lots of people filled with light. We need to hang out with them. They need to be our friends. And you need to find people of darkness and try to give them the light. But you can't do it if you fear God, if you don't think God is there with them. If you can't convince somebody that God loves them, then I'm not convinced that you believe that you're loved. Can you imagine trying to teach your little sister, your little brother, who's, say, 7 years old, what God means to you? Do you go to the catechism? Not going to get much out of that. The creed, well, you're not going to get much out of that either. I'm not putting him down. I'm just saying I'm talking to a 7-year-old. When I talk to a 7-year-old, I talk to somebody who I love. I tell them about what God has done for me. What God has done for me. And I celebrate the talents he's given me, whatever those gifts may be. But I celebrate mostly my relationship with God. And I bring it out. I talk about it. I don't hide it. And it's not a preachy thing. It's not, you should be like me, but here I am. And if you like me, I'll tell you how I got this way. It's not preaching. It's showing God's loving, living self. So you'll be going home, next week for a week-long Thanksgiving. How will you be with your family? Will you be a loving, smiling, generous person? Or will you climb back into the dark where, Mother won't let me do this and Dad won't, and we got all these people telling me what to do, and that's darkness, folks. It's your choice. You can live in the darkness, or you can live in the light. Go back and be a source of light to your family. Show how God loves you by how you love them. And not long after Thanksgiving, we'll be at Christmas. And the same thing, a longer time, a whole month. How will you be? Will you be children of the light?